Ready to take the next step? No matter your financial need, Goppert Financial Bank is your local lending solution. From refinancing or purchasing your new home, to growing your small business, to taking your farming operation to the next level, we will take that next step with you. Stop by or visit us online at goppertfb.com to learn more.
Hi, this is Connie Whitlock, and I am here with Dwight and Anita Widaman with the Metro Voice News,
Yes.
right? And Pleasant Hill residents, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've known you guys for a while, a long time actually. Maybe
years.
even,
Yeah.
I don't know, 20
years, at least
Probably,
20 years.
yeah.
I used to head up a promotional organization for Christian musicians, and you ran a Christian newspaper, and we met, and then we started going to church together at Deerbrook, which that was exciting.
Then our kids went to school together here in Pleasant
And
Hill.
our kids went to Did you move to Pleasant Hill after starting the Metro Voice News?
Yeah, we moved here, I think, in 2002.
Okay, 2002.
We moved here, yeah.
And I started in 1999 is when I started KCCM, right? So, and not doing that anymore, but you're still doing the Metro Voice
Still
News.
plugging away in media.
Yeah. And now I'm in media. This is really exciting.
It is exciting.
And we're going to talk about your trip. And we're going to talk about you as Pleasant Hillers, and we'll talk a little bit about what you've done over your lifetime.
Great.
I guess you do have quite a legacy in the Kansas City area, and Metro Voice News, and what you're doing in the college and educational arenas.
Sure.
So let's start with you guys.
Okay.
All right. Where were you born? No. So tell me a little bit about your family. You moved here in 2002. You have how many kids?
2 girls.
2 girls.
We wanted our kids to grow up in the country. I'm from Versailles, Missouri, and Dwight's
Okay.
from Mexico, Missouri. And so we wanted to live in the country. And we had a dear friend, Rita North, who taught here in Pleasant Hill. We went to college together, and we're good
Very
friends.
loved.
Yeah.
Very loved woman in Pleasant Hill.
So we decided if we were going to go to public schools, we wanted to go where Rita and Karen Dollins, she sang at our wedding, taught.
Karen did?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And Rita was my maid of honor.
No kidding. So
Yeah.
they were really close.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were high school friends and college friends.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we moved down here to Pleasant Hill. When we first moved down here, I could run to the store because nobody knew me. I could have all my gardening clothes on. And then when our kids went to school here in Pleasant Hill,
Everybody.
yeah, we had to clean up, So.
You had to clean up.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I still think you're okay with your pajamas and
Yeah,
everything.
so.
Yeah. I've seen people in their fluffy
Yes.
slippers at the
Yeah.
Price Chopper.
I can't handle that.
I've seen it, believe me. But anyway.
So then we moved down here.
Yeah.
But you had your daughters just got married in the last couple of years too.
Yeah. Hannah and Emma both graduated from Pleasant Hill. Hannah married Mason Potter, also from Pleasant Hill.
Oh.
And
Mason Potter?
Yes.
I know who Mason is. You married your daughter?
It's a small world. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So anyhow, so they both live in Lee
incredible.
An
Summit now.
accomplished musician himself.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Eggs on Mars. Yes.
Eggs on Mars. Is
Yeah.
that a band?
That's one of the
Yes.
bands.
Oh,
Yeah.
Eggs on Mars.
Yeah.
I'll have to think about that one.
And there's another one too. But I
Consider
can't.
the Lemming.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
A shout out to
that is
his
another
band.
band.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Consider the what?
Consider the Lemming.
The lemming.
Yes.
It's an animal or something.
Okay, yeah. All right, that's
Yeah.
they get more different and more different as years go by. Because I remember Smashing Pumpkins.
Yes.
You some of the different names coming up. So I'm
Yeah.
not surprised.
We're probably their oldest groupies, along with their parents, his parents, and showing up at the bars where they're playing. So
Oh.
yeah,
Where do they play? They play in town.
in Kansas City.
Kansas City?
Yeah, they'll drive out of town, like
Omaha.
Omaha.
Oh,
yeah,
we'll have to
Joplin.
look them up and,
Yeah.
and see
Yeah.
what they sound like. That's gonna be great. And you're gonna have a grand
Yes.
baby.
So if
She's waiting by her phone.
if our phone rings, we're leaving.
To be continued, a baby on the way. So yeah, and this will be your first grandchild.
Yes. Mhm.
Right. And you live in Pleasant Hill. How do you like Pleasant Hill? How have you enjoyed? Have you enjoyed it?
I love Pleasant
Yeah.
Hill. It's a great small town. It reminds us a lot of our communities when we grew up, in central Missouri. And I just like the atmosphere here. It's nice to have that sense of safe feeling living here, but then also the convenience of the big city amenities.
Right,
So,
exactly. And
yeah.
it's growing I don't know if it's growing fast, but it's
growing enough.
It's growing enough to feel the impact. Where even 26 years ago, it felt a lot more small town than it does now.
Right.
Now it's like, and I've been running into people that have been moving here from California, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which very different culture out there. So they're bringing, they're the 5, the 7, the Californians. That's how they call their highways. They own the 5, the 7. I'm like, Highway 7.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's and it's really exciting to see downtown.
We're glad you're here, by the way.
Yeah, downtown, growing and emerging. So that's
I think
really
something
great.
special and different is happening in Pleasant Hill. A lot of people care about Pleasant Hill, and we care about Pleasant Hill with the Pleasant Hill Times.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit what you've done over the years.
Sure.
Before the Metro Voice News.
For me, before the Metro Voice News, I was marketing director for H&R Block Corporate, and then moved on from there and took over marketing for Avila College, and then the opportunity to publish a newspaper arose, and I took it, and that was about 32 or 33 years ago. So the rest is history.
Okay.
I was a middle school and high school counselor at Raymore, and also in Kearney, and also in a little town district, Lakeland, Missouri. And that's one of the reasons why we also sponsor the Midwest Christian College Expo that's held on February 26, 2022. So if you have a student who is interested in attending a Christian school, college, or university in the Midwest, there'll be about 50 colleges there, and you're welcome to come on February 26th.
Yeah.
We've sponsored it for 24 years as part of Metro Voice, a service to the community.
I remember when Metro Voice was in actual print, which you've gone all digital now, right?
Yeah.
It's metrovoicenews.com.
.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have Facebook. I noticed that there's a Facebook feed.
Yeah.
And so if you want to keep up on, actually, you do almost national and world events as well, right?
Yeah.
What got you interested in Israel?
Well, probably our association with Metro Voice and then the other newspapers which we started and published over the years. But we've really, that association with a newspaper kind of connected us to people in politics, both in the U.S. and in Israel. But Anita, her story goes back even further as a
way
single
back.
Woman.
Yeah. I think God puts different things on different people's hearts that He wants to accomplish here on earth, and to serve the poor, to serve life causes. And mine, God put on my heart Israel, and I volunteered in Israel in like 1981. I'm an old woman. And then I also volunteered. I quit my job as a guidance counselor, and I really felt led to work at the International Christian Embassy in Israel, in Jerusalem, and did that for a fall.
You worked in the embassy.
Yeah. Well, it was the International Christian Embassy.
Oh, International Christian Embassy. Oh,
in those days, there was no embassies in Jerusalem, which was the capital of their country, and so a group of Christians felt like they would be the embassy there in Jerusalem.
Gotcha.
So they work with Holocaust survivors. They help with bringing Jews back to Israel from different countries and things like that, and also a lot of educational programs. And so I volunteered there, and then we got married, and then we had small children, and life happened. And so little by little, we were brought back into doing different things with Israel through different organizations.
Yeah.
And so you are, tell me what this is all about.
Sure. Well, we've been to Israel 18 times between the two of us, on personal trips, but mostly trips either sponsored by the Israeli government for tourism, and we'd write stories about our experiences there. And so that was gave us a unique perspective. But in 2015, when Emma graduated Pleasant Hill, she wanted to go to Israel for a graduation present. And so we organized a trip.
That's some senior trip, isn't it?
Yeah, not a great senior trip. And so we organized a trip and share how it changed their lives.
I think it really impacted their spiritual life, because they could see where Jesus walked, but also they understood the culture, the Middle Eastern culture,
which is very different.
Yes.
Yeah.
They also learned firsthand about the Jewish-Arab relationships there in Israel. And the interesting thing is that when they came back to the U.S. and they went to college that fall, Hannah was going to a public university and Emma was going to a Christian university. And during that fall, both of them, through social media, mostly our conversations, there was a lot of negative things about Israel. And the thing that they saw was that because they had been there and they grew up in a home where Israel was always a predominant conversation, they could answer those negative charges about Israel because they were there firsthand, and also just their knowledge that they had absorbed.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was
Experiencing
important.
it while you're there firsthand, and talking to the people, and actually seeing exactly what's going on.
There's a lot of misperceptions about Israel, and one thing that happened, we were in the north of Israel. We were going to go to a ranch and ride horses, and so we were getting out of our van, and a minivan pulls up next to us, and the parents get out, and the kids, have soccer cleats on, and they're coming from dance and different things or after school activities, and they're going to go there for their afternoon riding lesson. And Emma turns to us and says, they're just like us. This is nothing what the news shows you about Israel. And that's so true. She had seen with her own eyes that there's a misperception created about Israel in American news media, and by being there, they were able to overcome that and see for themselves what a great country and what a great people they are.
One other thing we did with the kids when we were there is that we had a Shabbat dinner in a person's home, and we
Can
really
you explain to
Shabbat
people
dinner.
what a Shabbat dinner is?
In Israel, their Sabbath is Friday evening and Saturday. And so culturally, it's kind of like it comes to a real slowdown. And it's important that you have dinner with other people religiously, but also it just slows down, and there's a real emphasis on family and rest, which we don't have in America
Even
at
for
all.
the secular people in Israel.
Really?
Yeah, it's just...
It reminds me of when we would shut down for like New Year's Day, Christmas, and then when Bob, my husband, went to visit Japan, they didn't do that. And he's like,
Yeah, is there any rest for the soul?
Or
It's
even
just a
30 or
regular
40
day.
years ago, we had blue laws in the
Right.
United States where
Right.
everything was closed on Sundays.
everybody,
Yeah.
But what was
took a rest.
Yeah.
what was so exciting about this is that we purposely it was a service you could purchase to have dinner in a home, and we purposely did like a young psychologist, and she invited her friends over because one of her friends was birthday. But there was also people from all over the world, and they were all wanting a Jewish Sabbath dinner also.
Authentic.
Yeah. And
What would be in a Sabbath dinner? I mean,
Well-
what would you eat?
I don't even remember, but it was basically the traditions
Really?
that they have and the
Okay.
lighting of the candles and things like
Okay.
that. But the most interesting thing was that there was this woman's girlfriends and friends was like a Jewish person from Ethiopia, a Jewish person from Australia, a Jewish person from Australia that had all come to Israel. And so they got to meet people from all over the world that had the same faith, and just talking to them, I think that was a real highlight for them.
Wow.
It really was.
Wow.
So
So I see that traveling to Hawaii is expensive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So how much does it cost to travel to Israel? I mean, you said it was a big present. So
Oh, yeah, that's
if I wanted to go to Israel, how much?
Well, I mean, you can travel there for airfare. You can get airfare for, $1,500 right now if you're planning out a year and ahead.
Yeah.
But for us, a ground tour is under, usually about $2,800 or so. That's all inclusive.
Includes airfare?
No, that doesn't include airfare,
Okay,
but
so
that's
then you
all
have the
inclusive.
airfare. So it's an expensive present. That was an expensive.
Yeah, we stay in resort hotels or 4-star hotels in Jerusalem, and
Is there a dangerous part of Jerusalem or Israel to stay in?
Or
is it just like everywhere else?
Well,
where there's
it's
gonna be
probably like
danger?
everywhere
would you go to Chicago?
Yes, been there, love it. I wouldn't go to parts of Chicago.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But yes, I will go back to Chicago.
Yeah.
That was an interesting trip.
The thing about Israel is that everyone serves in the military, so everyone knows firsthand how to take care of themselves, so to say.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but when we were there with the kids once again, when we were walking back from this dinner, It was probably midnight, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and there was people with strollers pushing their stroller, their buggy with their child, returning themselves to their homes from wherever they had
Their
Shabbat
parents'
dinner.
house or grandparents'
So,
house.
it's kind of like, I've been there many times and I've never felt unsafe, But, once again, you're wise. That's the thing. You have your eyes on, you look.
Is it safer than America in general, you think?
Is it
Safer in America?
No, in Israel.
Oh, in Israel? I would say so. They have, according to the last data that I saw, they were, compared to European countries, they were, in the top 2 or 3 of safest countries in Europe or the Middle East.
Where to raise a family.
They're about as safe as Finland.
Oh.
You can't get much safer than Finland.
Didn't know.
Yeah, and people, because of the news, in Israel, every disagreement over a backyard fence between a Jew and a Muslim becomes an international incident.
Tell about
because of the news.
Reporters.
And and so the news is looking for conflict in Israel, oftentimes where it doesn't exist.
Are they looking for conflict everywhere?
Yeah, but for
Have you
some
seen
reason,
that? I mean-
Israel is a focus. There are more foreign
I see.
correspondents based in Israel than all of Europe combined. So, and
That's
there's,
interesting.
and so they're trying to look for stories, and oftentimes they'll take just a normal argument that two people have in a neighborhood and make it an international incident. Now, of course, there is, Israel struggles with, in the past, has struggled with terrorism, and every now and then Gaza will lob, rockets over into southern Israeli towns, but. Usually those types of things are very rare, even though they're all over the news and everything, but they're fairly rare.
So I'm looking at your list of things, ideas here and what you've done and kind of, you're giving tours? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Or what is that all about?
Well, because of the experience that we've had in Israel and seeing how it affects people's lives, we decided to organize tours. And so we started that a few years ago. Our first one was pre-COVID,
And then we've postponed
and then we postponed and postponed.
Did you go? Did you do it in September? Didn't you? Did
well,
you go?
no. This year's we had a tour scheduled for this past October, and we've had to combine that with the tour in March.
So you're going to do one in March.
We're going to do our next one is in March.
And this is Israel. We have this is kind of a 3D.
It's a topographical
map of Israel, and it's long.
Yeah.
Right.
It's from basically the length from here to St. Louis.
Oh wow, that's not very big.
It's very
That's
small.
not very big. Yeah. So 9 million people live in that swath of land.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. And then the most narrow area between what people call the West Bank and the Mediterranean is just 9 miles wide.
Seriously.
So, yeah.
And 9 million people live in this region.
That region. Yeah.
How do they make that happen?
Yeah.
I wonder how many people live here between here and St. Louis.
Well,
Well, how many
It's
people
not 9 million.
St. Louis. I mean, in
probably
Kansas
just
City.
probably a
Kansas
couple
City's
million
about
people.
a couple million, maybe million too.
Yeah.
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 But so where does your where does it start? Where does it stop? Where do you go?
Well, basically, you always fly into Tel Aviv, the airport.
Okay.
And probably most of the touring that you'll do, unless you go
Here,
for...
let's for the viewer, I'm going to bring this up a little bit
Okay.
so we can point a little bit better.
Okay.
I'll move my little computer here and hope everybody can see this. Yep, they can. So
Probably most of the touring when you go to Israel is from the Dead Sea up to the
so
Tiberias,
this
Sea
is
of
the Dead
Tiberias.
Sea right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Up to the Galilee.
And that's all salt.
Yeah, it's the lowest
That's where
place
people
on earth.
float.
You cannot drown in there. It's the lowest place on earth.
And
So
No. Repeat that. That's wild. What did you say?
that is the lowest place on the face of the earth, the Dead Sea.
No kidding.
Yeah. And it's a salt sea, so no matter how you try, you cannot drown in that.
Nice.
So, the famous tourist photo is to stick your feet out of the water while you're holding a magazine or a newspaper, or nowadays your phone.
Wait,
because
you need to bring the Pleasant Hill Times.
Right. I was going to say.
Hey, we'll do it.
to the
We'll
Dead
do
Sea
that, yeah.
March
That'd be
and get a
great.
picture. That would be
Yeah.
great. So what's up here now?
And then you usually go up the coast, maybe to Caesarea, to Echo, and then you come over to like Nazareth, Megiddo, Armageddon, and then you spend time around the Sea of Galilee. In March, we're going to go up to Tel Dan, up to the northern border, and then you go down to usually Bet Shean, and then down to Masada, the Dead Sea, and then you really spend like 3 or 4 days in Jerusalem. That's
Jerusalem's right here.
Right there.
Yeah.
I love. What did you call this kind of map?
I think it's a
Topographical.
map, yeah.
I love that because then you can see that there's going to be mountains.
Yeah, people love this map because
I love that.
they can see that Israel really is a contrast in elevations, mountains,
It would be
deserts.
nice to have it in to see how it goes out to Palestine. Some of the other areas,
Yeah.
are they as mountainous or are they flat?
Judea and Samaria is right here.
Yeah.
But, like in the Bible,
Like
when it
this is
says
flat.
going up to Jerusalem, you really see that you do go up to Jerusalem. So that's kind
Yeah.
of fun, too, with the topographical
Go
map.
up to
Yeah,
Jerusalem.
up the mountains.
Up the
Yeah.
mountains.
Yeah.
Well, that's really incredible.
So when you're
So-
driving from Jerusalem down to the Dead Sea, your ears are popping because you're going down,
really?
several thousand feet in elevation.
I think for
So-
most people, when you think of, Israel, you just think of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
You just think of, okay, where did Jesus go?
Right.
Or either that or the conflict.
Yeah.
Gaza
Yeah,
or
right.
Jerusalem. You don't
You know-
think of all the other places.
Yeah.
And one thing
exactly.
about Israel, it's a very high-tech, not culture, but if you go to Tel Aviv, it is like high-tech.
It's like Miami or LA.
Yeah, but you see all the different technology companies.
Wow.
And a lot of like WhatsApp started in Israel.
I didn't
A
know
lot of the a lot of the cybersecurity is in Israel. So
Yeah.
Maybe it's safer to live in Israel.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize how important Israel is to our economy, and not just our economy. If any of your viewers or listeners have family members or friends in the U.S. military, Israeli technology is protecting them. Their Iron Domes is a missile defense system that protects missiles from coming in on our troops. We have that. Israel gave that technology and installed it in South Korea, when North Korea was threatening our troops. So we have Israeli technology protecting our troops around the world. If you know somebody's got a pacemaker, some of that technology was developed in Israel. If you love cherry tomatoes, those were invented and developed in Israel.
I love cherry
Yeah.
tomatoes.
So when you're driving through Tel Aviv and its suburbs, people see corporate headquarters for Google and Microsoft and Apple, and they're just amazed that all these companies have come and set up headquarters in the Holy Land. So there's something special about that.
it's not that they've set up headquarters. They have started up small companies
Companies,
that
yeah.
has been purchased by American companies.
Yeah.
And so they know that it's
They're forerunners
Yes.
Yeah.
in industry.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
So
technology.
in terms of patents around the world,
Yeah.
the countries that hold patents, it's China or Israel is number 3 behind the U.S. and China.
So the next one's in March.
Mhm.
If I wanted to go, how could I get in on this?
Call 816-524-4522 or go on the website to heartlandtoholyland.com.
Yeah.
And
So when's the deadline for March?
It's coming up. Well, we have really inexpensive airfare for $1,100, which right now, if you get online and look at that airfare, it's over $4,000 for this trip.
Wow.
But we have a group rate, $1,100,
Yeah.
and for the airfare.
the one thing I think, if anyone really is interested in going to Israel, the land package, you have a lovely time, wonderful coach, wonderful hotels,
Food, yeah.
wonderful fresh food, all your entrance fees are covered. So really the land package is what you would spend, anywhere on a nice vacation.
Yeah.
But the thing is that airfare is always going to be an issue if you want to go to Israel. So you just got to bite the bullet and pay for the airfare.
And we've got this trip is unique in that we got the group discounted airfare during the height of COVID last year. And so
there you go.
it'll never be this cheap again.
There you go.
So
Well, and the deadline is somewhere in December, I see.
yeah,
So
yeah. If anybody, and we're happy to visit with people, to come and meet with them or have them out to our house.
and
to
Pleasant Hillers, guys.
I know we've had so many
Pleasant
people from
Hillers.
Pleasant Hill go. and they know us because we're from here. But it's a great time. We also have a tour we're planning for people in their 20s. That's going to be next July, and it's an adventure tour. We're going to whitewater raft down the Jordan.
Okay, that's fun.
Yeah,
We're going for a Jeep drive in the
Jeep
desert.
Whitewater raft down the Jordan.
You know, whitewater where Jesus got baptized. You know, that's the new slogan. You know,
that's awesome.
so, but you know, the nice thing about a trip to Israel is that so many people wait until they're retired or later in life, and it is an investment. But you know, when you go to Israel, people describe it as, you know, they previously read the Bible in black and white, and then when you go to Israel and you're walking in the footsteps of Jesus and all the wonderful sites we go to, you come back and then you see the Bible in full color. That's the transformation you have and how you
It gives
view.
you context.
It gives you context, yeah.
But it's an investment. You know, it's so sad, you know, to invest in your spiritual life when you're 85 or 80 or 75, when you could do it when you're 50 or 55 or 45. You know, the return is much greater.
Yeah.
You know?
And we go to some amazing places too. You know, we're gonna walk up the steps that Jesus walked up to get into the temple.
But you've been there before.
Yeah.
How many times?
18 times.
Between the two of us.
So you know the place.
And
Yeah,
I've lived there twice.
Yeah, that's true.
You lived there twice.
Yeah.
So
we know it. Yeah.
when you're talking about going, do you have pictures of you there going up the stairs?
Oh yeah, we take our group there, and they know those are the steps because, you know, in the Crusader times, when after Israel or Jerusalem was destroyed, and then the Crusaders came in and rebuilt Jerusalem, they walled in the entrance to the Temple Mount, where the temple was on top, and so but the steps still are there. So we're walking up 2,000-year-old steps that Jesus walked up when he went into the temple.
Wow.
Yeah, so things like that. We go.
Like give you
It does give you goosebumps,
Yeah.
you know, and we go underground to the original street level of 2,000 years ago before Rome destroyed Jerusalem.
That would be really
yeah.
interesting. What do you see?
I mean, you see the actual sidewalks and the stalls where vendors were, and that Jesus would have walked by. And
On this one tunnel tour, it's the Western Wall tunnel tour,
Yeah.
there's this one block of stone that is one stone that weighs the weight of an airplane.
of a 747.
And how did they get it there?
Yeah.
You know, isn't that amazing? The
Oh,
things that
9
you
million people.
Right. True.
But
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
You know it didn't grow over the
No.
years because
Yeah,
it's a rock.
right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah,
That
and we
is
go.
incredible.
We go to the Garden of Gethsemane. We go
Yeah.
to the Garden Tomb.
Yeah.
You can walk in. You know, there's two competing places where people believe Jesus was buried, and one is the Garden Tomb, and you can actually step into the hole in the hillside.
He's not there anymore.
Not there. And so we go to a lot of these places that are exciting. And we also go to Judea and Samaria. They're like the Midwest of Israel. They're the biblical heartland. Everything, pretty much everything that happened in the Bible happened in Judea and Samaria. Today they call that the West Bank.
Okay.
But that's the heart of Israel.
Wow.
It has always been the heart of Israel. And we go there. And one place we go to is Shiloh. And that's where after the Israelites came from Egypt, they crossed into the promised land, and they set up a wilderness tabernacle, to worship God. And they know that that's the exact place because in the Bible, in the Old Testament, it lists out the actual dimensions. And so archaeologists have measured this ancient structure. It's the dimensions. And then they also know it's it because during those times it stood for about 378 years. The wilderness tabernacle before the first temple was built in Jerusalem. And so each year, all the Jews across Israel were required to come in and do a sacrifice for their family, right?
Wow.
And so they would sit on the hillsides around the wilderness tabernacle, and they would make a sacrifice, and then they would take part of the sacrifice, the animal, and they would cook that in their campsite and eat it. And after they were done, they would break the pottery, the plates on the ground. And because they had eaten something, they had eaten a meat that was holy. It had been sacrificed to the Lord. And so what have they found in all the hillsides surrounding this area? They have found millions and millions of pieces of broken pottery, broken plates. Wow. Proof that all these Israelites came and worshiped God there with their families. Yeah.
Wow.
So that it gives you goosebumps when you
Yeah,
can
it
be
does.
there, and
I
you
mean,
can.
it gives you a visual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah, and so you start to understand things.
Sometimes I feel like if they make the movies, it's just so stiff.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was
Right,
stiff. I
right,
think it was
right.
just like us, and we're breaking
Yeah.
the plate, bing,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
In the movies, it's like, we're breaking this
Right,
plate.
right, right.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like stiff. But if you're there imagining you breaking a plate,
Yeah.
you
your
eating,
family there
your
worshiping.
family there
Yeah.
worshiping, and then
Yeah.
breaking the plate. I don't
Right.
know.
It just
gives
comes.
you a visual.
It comes alive for people. It's just exciting.
That is exciting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this isn't going to be your last one. So
Oh no, we'll probably do one. Hopefully one a year.
Oh,
So yeah.
get in on that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about publishing
Publishing.
a little bit. So
okay.
you are the publisher, or no?
Anita's
she's
the
the
publisher, yeah.
She's
We
the
work
publisher.
together. You know.
So what is the what do you do?
I tell him what to do.
You tell him.
Yeah,
what
that's
to
pretty
do.
much it.
And,
yeah.
and then you tell yourself what to write, right? So
Basically, I'm the business side, and you're the editorial side.
Yeah. Yeah.
do you ever write?
Occasionally, but that's not my strength.
It's not your strength.
You know,
Okay.
so
And business is not necessarily my strength.
definitely not.
I'm
his
a
strength.
lover, not a businessman.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling that. I kind of feel the
Right.
same way.
Yeah.
You
Right.
wanna come work over here?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to have you back. Maybe after you
love to.
come back and bring some pictures.
Okay.
All
That
right.
would be fun, and
All right.
maybe there'll be some new issues to talk about.
Sounds good. Look
New
forward to it.
issues, yes.
We covered a lot today.
We really did, and I'm thinking
You didn't give us warning.
maybe two episodes out of this one.
All right.
So,
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for coming.
Thank
Our
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.